Did the candidates' responses as a whole, I'm not talking about any one in particular, did their responses taken as a whole shape, solidify, or change your perception of their leadership abilities? In watching how they behaved, how they responded, the strength of their answers, the coherence of their answers, the way they were able to stand their ground, express themselves, move back and forth, who, if either one, would you want as your president? Did either one of them move your position like, I'm gonna have somebody out there fighting for me or representing us. I think I'd rather have him or her. Did either one of them move your position? If either one of them moved your position, raise your hand. Okay, who moved your position?
Hi, my name is Christina, and I didn't think it would, but Vice President Harris moved my position. She came across as presidential, the way that she held herself, the way she spoke.
All right, who agrees that Vice President Harris moved your position towards her based on the way she handled herself tonight? Raise your hand really high. Okay, so that's like 10, 12 of you. All right, how many of you say that Donald Trump, the way he conducted himself, moved your position and said, if I'm gonna have somebody out front as a leader, I would like it to be him that moved my position in that direction? Raise your hand high. Okay, kind of about the same number. All right, joining us now are top behavior and body language experts, Greg Hartley and Scott Rouse. Now, this is Greg, this is Scott, and we have a show on Merit TV called Behavior Panel. You may have seen them on the internet before. If not, you may have seen them on Merit TV. If you haven't, you should, because they really deconstruct some of the most compelling interviews and events from all parts of culture. Interrogations by the police, political, pop, anything. And if you want to know kind of whether somebody's shooting you straight or not, or whatever, they really help you do that. And it's very interesting. And you can use it in your own life. Now, you guys watched the debate very closely.
Oh, yeah.
Were there things that jumped out at you guys? And if so, what?
Yeah, for sure. I would say right off the bat, you could tell that Kamala Harris came in first very stressed. You could see her body language was rigid and wooden, and she was moving odd, and her blink rate was about 60 beats per second. It's a big deal. We usually blink about 12 times, 60 per minute. We usually blink about 12 times per minute. Watch her eyes. That's stress. That doesn't mean anything except for she was stressed and prepared for a fight.
Okay, so that's a fight or flight reaction. She's got a lot of adrenaline pumping.
Yep.
But normally, it's 12 to 15 blinks per minute, right?
Right.
And she was 60?
60 is about what I measured, yeah.
So that's about 500%.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a lot of arousal.
Yeah, so what's happening in that person's body is this adrenal cortex is kicking in and they're going into kind of panic mode, and their body wants to either get out of the space or fight back. And so all these autonomic things are happening they have no control over.
Yeah, well, she was in a presidential debate.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, it is
Not
a big
taking
deal.
away from that, and it's Trump. She's sitting 10 feet away.
So right from the start, you noticed that she was, in your opinion, trying to pick a fight.
Well, yeah, there's a great video we'll look at here just a second.
Well, let's do it right now. There's no sense waiting.
Yeah, so...
All right, Scott, come over here.
What's great about this video is we get to see... Did anybody notice that Kamala Harris did not laugh, that thing that everybody calls a cackle? She laughed one time. Do you remember that? When did she laugh? Well, what I saw is she laughed when she baited him into a fight.
Okay, now the reason this is important is, look, these guys have both been in debate prep, right? I mean, they've been like woodshedded. So they've been spending sometimes 6, 8 hours a day preparing for this debate. And one of the strategies, and I've done a lot of witness prep in my career, where I've prepared witnesses for billion-dollar trials and prepared CEOs of large corporations to face the media in high-stress situations. And so you go in with strategies. And one of her strategies is she knows that former President Trump can be volatile, right? Explosive. You know, he can call people names and he can say, and so clearly, if I was preparing her, which I was not, I've been trying to interview her. I've got in so many requests, it looks like confetti on New Year's Eve. And she hasn't been talking to anybody, but I think she will. But if I was preparing her to debate Trump, one of the things I would be doing is saying, you got to get him upset. You got to get him mad. You got to bait him so he loses it and shows not his finest side.
And precisely what I would do as well, Doc. First of all, she's this big, he's this big. It makes him look like a bully. So she's smart to draw him into that, make him lose it. And all that adrenaline we're talking about takes away your thinking brain and makes you respond. That's what she's after. We said that her face, if you notice her face here, if I go over and mark, you can see in here, she's actually showing that big smile. Big smile. Her hands come up, her fingers are extended and joined. She's confident, she's gotten him into it. That's genuine. That is not her nervous, throw her head back, protect her throat laugh. We can see her eyes are engaged. You see her moving her hands. She intended exactly what she's getting, and she's not answering the question she was asked. She's attacking him about his stuff.
Yeah, now look at this. Look at this expression right here.
That's contempt all day. That upper side, one-sided face rise is contempt in her part. Her chin is thrust forward instead of protecting her neck. When she laughs out of nervousness, she does ha, and it makes her look different. You can see it. She baited him in, and she's ready for it.
Okay, so there was nothing accidental.
Nothing accidental.
Okay. Now, Scott, you analyzed former President Trump's body language and behavior and say you noticed something very interesting about his eyes from the beginning of the debate. What did you notice?
A lot of people will count blink rate quite often. We'll talk about how many times a person blinks. But in this situation, what we're looking at from an eye perspective is called the intake eye. For example, if you're shooting a gun and you put your eye on the target, that eye opens up and the other eye will kind of squint a little bit. However, when you're taking in information that you're thinking about that may be aggressive information toward you, then you've got inner dialogue going on and you're fighting back and forth as you think about that. What am I going to do? What am I going to say?
All right, and what do we see in here?
And right here, we see that eye right there start squinting, and that's his right eye. That's his intake eye. And the more he thinks, as he's going aggressively toward Kamala, the more that eye squints because he's thinking about the things that she said up to that point so far. This right here, we're seeing a little bit, this is not a micro expression. The micro expression is a very small, fast expression, but this is a little bit of anger right in here. That's why we see those bottom teeth right there. So we're seeing confidence, but at the same time as he's extremely stressed, because this was at the beginning of the debate. So, which is normal, you're gonna be stressed, but we're seeing a whole lot of stress build up on him, and that's why that eye starts closing as he's taking in that information and thinking about it.
All right, and Greg, you noticed something else about Vice President Harris tonight, that she didn't answer the question about flip-flopping.
Yeah, so
because they went over 5 or 6 examples.
Agreed. And the question you have to ask yourself is, this is a big election, so what you're looking for is truth. You're looking for what the person believes. What we saw, however, is watch her. First of all, her elbows are at her side. When she's given the chance to answer the flip-flopping question, she brings up a topic she says she didn't flip-flop on. She doesn't address flip-flopping. She covers that up. And we see that. Watch her elbows. I told you. See that hand on the right is getting smaller? When people believe in what they're saying, they hold their hands and they extend their fingers and their thumbs and their elbows away from their side. When they do this, you should be suspicious. That's creating an exoskeleton for themselves. So what we didn't get, in my opinion, is clarity. Clarity is a different thing than honesty even. If a person's going to guard what they're saying, it's hard to know what's truth.
Okay, so you're saying when she comes in here...
Yes. Well, and Donald Trump does it occasionally. You'll see when he does something stupid, he does this too. So you see it, you see her hands are extended, but when she gets pressed, she rolls her fingers and she doesn't answer the question.
Okay, and she never did answer that.
She never did answer the question.
Okay. And Scott, you say you also noticed something else with former President Trump that you call his baseline.
Right. So in his baseline, we usually see the illustrators where we see the little squeeze box thing going back and forth, and we get that hand coming up like this, and he'll start doing this. This is where he starts breaking out into the classic Trump illustrators. Illustrators are the way your brain emphasizes specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. And that's what we're seeing when we see his arms move on the words. And this shows he's got confidence with what he's saying and believes it because they happen when the words hit. Quite often when someone doesn't believe what they're saying, they may be being deceptive with you. is when they don't hit when they're talking on those words. They'll just sort of do a free play thing here as they're speaking.
All right, we've got sound for this one. Let's hear it.
Okay.
In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the Buddha yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be prosecuted?
So here again, we're seeing anger as well. So because we're seeing frustration and anger. And we know that because the head is tilted forward. At the same time, you could say that's confidence. Quite often your head comes back when you're confident. But in this, it's almost like he's coming forward. So that's where we're seeing the confidence part there. But he's frustrated and he's angry. And that's what we're seeing here. Some we're seeing the disdain right in there. So, which is normal for a situation like this because obviously he doesn't like her at all. But they're both showing a lot of disdain toward each other, contempt toward each other.